What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be looking at the Detroit Lions mailbox. What is the Detroit Lions mailbox, you ask? Well, if you follow me on Instagram at DoseOfDion 2.0, you guys send me questions on some of my posts. I put them out there and I say, hey, send me any Lions questions you have, and you guys give me the questions, and I answer them. They don't have to be Lions, but they've pretty much all been Lions. So I just answer them, and yeah, it's called the Detroit Lions mailbox. I think the last time we did one of these was probably about a week ago, and that's kind of how I want to keep it, right? Just mix it in here and there so I can get your guys' questions, and I can try to answer them in my way, and then you guys can go in the comments of this video and give me your thoughts on how I answered them and how you would answer the questions, right? So I think it's a pretty fun thing to do. So if you do have Instagram, follow me at DoseOfDion 2.0. It's cool. Make sure you guys let me know your questions in the comments of this video, and I could probably just respond to you there. So let's just get this thing. Let's just get it started. All right, let's just get started. The first question we have is by Ryan Herod, who says, I think it's Herod. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. He says, slate to the Raiders for the number 19. Okay, so the Raiders do have the 19th pick in the draft, and he's saying, would you trade Darius Slay to the Raiders for number 19? There's definitely pros and cons of trading Darius Slay this offseason. We will go through those. I did write down a lot of notes on these. I looked through most of these just because I wanted to have something to back up what I was trying to say instead of just coming out here and saying something and then just moving on. Like, I got to have some kind of information. So if we got number 19, we would have number 19 and 3 in the draft, and then it wouldn't make it a must to trade back. However, if we did trade back, we could acquire more picks. We would definitely have tons of picks in this draft. Now, pros and cons for sure. Okay, the pros and cons are, here we go. Start off with the pros. We would save $10 million if we traded Darius Slay this offseason. Obviously, he's not the youngest cornerback, and you're probably not going to get a lot for him if you just let him finish out his last year. You're not really going to get anything for him. So trading Darius Slay definitely does make sense, especially for this season as well, because you do save about $10 million in cap space. Right now, we're at 52 after cutting Snacks Harrison. So if we did decide to trade Darius Slay and got a pick in return, we would save about $10 million, and the Raiders would have to be the team to take on that contract. So that's one of the pros. The second pro is this. This is probably the best possible deal I think you would get. I think the 19th pick of the draft, probably where you're going to get like the top end of your deal. Now, I do think he's definitely a valuable cornerback, right? I think you guys had some good points on my last video that he played number one cornerback. He's always against the best player. Our pass rush was awful. And he still balled out as one of the top cornerbacks in the league. He definitely has a legitimate case for top 3 cornerback in the league going by statistics, at least top 5. He definitely has a case there. Now, the thing that's against him is the fact that he wants to get paid about $16 to $17 million a year, and he's not the youngest cornerback in the world, okay? He's going to be over his 30s very, very soon. So that's kind of the concerns with Darius Slay and why the Detroit Lions may not want to pay him, because he does have one final year, so we don't have to get rid of him. But if you get rid of him now, you can get something in return, and that's why a lot of people are looking at that. So the question is, would I do it for a 19th pick? Now, at 19, I think the other cornerback that's going to be out there is a guy like Christian Fulton. So if you wanted to try to get a cornerback right away to just kind of replace Darius Slay in the draft at 19, Christian Fulton would probably be the top option. He's not a bad cornerback at all. I think he's definitely second when it comes to the top cornerbacks in the draft. I would say he's second right behind Jeffrey Okudah. Jeffrey Okudah is by far the best cornerback in the draft. Now, if you do trade Darius Slay and you receive 19, that makes it so you don't have to go anywhere else but Jeffrey Okudah at number 3. The Detroit Lions could take Okudah at 3 because they then have 19 to play around, whether it's with an edge rusher or defensive lineman. I think a couple of good options, could be, potentially trading that pick or whatever. But definitely there's some other options. Maybe like a Khalil Mack would be an option possibly if the Falcons don't take him. So there's other options out there at number 19 if we receive that, and then we could take Okudah at 3. But really when it comes down to trading Darius Slay, it's a very hard thing for me to make a decision on. I do think that's a very high offer, and that's a very good offer, so I wouldn't be against it, but I just think there's pros and cons, and I may have to come back to this one. I don't know. I don't know if I have a yes or no answer for this one. It's really, really hard because I think it's easy to take Slay for granted. It's easy to take a lot of players for granted once the season's over. I feel like it's easy to look at someone and say, okay, they're not that good. But then when you watch during the season, you're like, wow, we really need this guy. I mean, think about it. Look how bad we were passed defensively, and Slay still balled out. We really need Darius Slay, and he's been here for a long time, and he's been very good for us. And we get rid of him, it's going to open a huge hole, and we already have many holes to fill. But also, moving him could help for the future, and possibly now, probably not for now. I feel like we would get worse most likely. It's going to be hard, but we would have $10 million to potentially spend in free agency extra. Maybe go get a cornerback that way. You would have another first-round draft pick. So I would say yes, because it's probably one of the best deals that we're going to get for Slay, but at the same time, I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments below which way you go with that one. What are your thoughts on how we may play next season? This is kind of a hard one. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by how we may play next season. I didn't write anything down for this one. How we may play. If you're talking schematically, I think it's going to be very similar. We may see a little bit of changes when it comes to secondary, maybe because Corey Undlin is now here. I think the linebacker group, you should definitely keep an eye on the linebacker group. I think that could get a lot better with the new hiring of a new linebackers coach from Tennessee. Cannot think of his name off the top of my head. But Definitely keep an eye on the linebacker group. I think Jared Davis could take a very big step forward. Offensively, I don't see many changes. It really depends to me on whether or not what we do at the running back position. If we keep our same running backs, or we add a couple of veterans, or maybe some like nice receiving backs or old power back, something like that, kind of a cheap free agent or a late draft round pick, I think we'll stay pretty much similar on offense. However, if we kind of redo the whole offense and we go O-line and we get a top running back, then I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions became more of a running team to try to help out the defense, control the time possession because our defense is so bad, maybe help them out a little bit if we stack the offense. I think there's going to be a lot of similarities, though. This is probably the make or break season for Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. So I think Matt Patricia, he brought in a couple of guys that could help out. I don't think anybody's like, okay, this is the guy. Like, this is the guy that's going to be, that's going to just kind of change the whole defense. Like, Corey Unlin isn't going to change the defense. He's going to help with the secondary. He's the defensive coordinator. But I feel like it's still going to be Patricia's defense. We're not going to see tons of different things. It really depends on who we bring in. I think we're going to see more blitzes because we're going to bring in some edge rushers. So, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty similar, though, overall. We're going to get some guys that fit the scheme, and hopefully I answered that question right. I don't exactly know what you were going for there, but hopefully I answered that right. If I did not answer right, please let me know in the comments of this video, and I'll try to answer it again. Next up, we have Melvin Gordon or LeSean McCoy. Now, this is an interesting one to me, and I had to look at this one a little bit deeper. This is really hard. There's always a neither option, but in this case, he wants me to pick one. So I think, I'd probably go with neither. However, you want me to pick one, so I guess I could probably pick one. So I'll make a case for both of these guys. Now, the first thing is huge, and it's for Melvin Gordon. A lot of people look at Melvin Gordon, me, myself, and they say, okay, he's younger. He could be worth a big contract. He's had one really big year. The problem with Melvin Gordon is he's not consistently a good running back. He's a career 4 yards per carry, which isn't awful. However, he's only had one season over 4 yards per carry. That year was like 5.3. Everything else has been under 3 yards per carry. So that automatically makes you a little bit worried. And then the holdout. But what really is the problem here with Melvin Gordon is that he's behind an offensive line that's awful. And I wanted to put that in perspective because I've talked about it, but I really want to put it home how bad that O-line was with the Chargers. So last season, by Pro Football Focus, they ranked every single offensive line after the last season. And the Detroit Lions came in at number 11. Now, obviously, that's going to change depending on what we do in free agency and whatnot. But after last season, we ranked 11th. The Chargers were ranked 29th. Offensive line, the 29th best. I mean, that's a big. That's one of the worst offensive lines. Obviously, Pro Football Focus is just a ranking system, but still, by Pro Football Focus, it's kind of just an example to put it in perspective that they have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. So that definitely has a big effect on things. I'm not saying we are a great offensive line, but we're a lot better. At least last year we were. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, they ranked 16th. So they were a little bit worse than ours, according to Pro Football Focus. They were kind of right in the middle. Okay, that's where they were. They were right in the middle of the pack. So definitely Melvin Gordon is going to have a lot of struggles when you're behind the worst offensive line. And that's really what it comes down to, having a really good offensive line. In my eyes is where it starts. So I'm always talking about going in trenches and drafting O-line and D-linemen and signing O-line and D-line. Now let's break down the pros and cons of each of these running backs. So starting with Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon, his market value, he's projected to get like 4 years, $47 million total, $11.7 million average. That's a pretty big contract, $11.7 million. Now, put that in perspective, if we trade away Darius Slay for, say, a pick, we would save $10 million. So that's pretty much the same amount. But it's still a pretty good amount of money. And the thing that Melvin Gordon has going for him is his age. He's only 26 years old, which is huge. So if you're going to give him a 4-year deal, you can probably be a little bit more comfortable with that because you know that he's going to be 27, 28, 29, 30. Like those years, he's not going to be regressing that much. He may not be the same player at 30 he is at 26, but he's not going to be awful because he is still a pretty young running back that really hasn't been under an okay offensive line. I feel like, the Lions offense is very dynamic, and a guy like Darrell Bevel could love to have a really good running back like Melvin Gordon, at least what we believe could be a very good running back. I've talked about his career yards per carry. He has had 2 seasons over 10 touchdowns. I feel like the thing with Melvin Gordon is if you bring in him, you're trading Carry-On. And it comes down to, it's kind of just like that. And that's not to say like, oh, I hate Carry-On. I think that's just what it comes down to. You're not saving money trading Carry-On, but you're getting a pick in return. I just don't think you can rock with Melvin Gordon and Carry-On. I don't know if that would work out. I feel like if you're getting Melvin Gordon, you're like, okay, we're going to go with Melvin Gordon. We're going to complement him with Ty Johnson and Bo Scarborough, and that's going to be a running back group. And we're just going to move Carry-On, see what pick we can get, possibly a 3rd or 4th. Hopefully, that's kind of where they're looking. And that's kind of what that would be. Now, LeSean McCoy is a completely different situation. LeSean McCoy is a 31-year-old running back who actually came off a better season statistically, kind of. If you look at just yards per carry, he had a better season last year than Melvin Gordon because he actually averaged 4.6 yards per carry. And he's been actually a career 4.5 yards per carry kind of guy. So he's definitely a guy over his career, but he's also had so many great Pro Bowl seasons. It definitely changes things. Now, like I said, his offensive line was better. He was in a way more dynamic offense. And he was more of a guy they brought in to help, on the outside because they like those guys on the outside. The difference here is, one, the contract. That's pretty much the main difference. Melvin Gordon expected to get 4 years, 47 mil. LaShawn McCoy last year got 1 year, 3 mil. So you're probably going to bring him in for a year, maybe 2 years, like $2.5 million. So that's a huge difference when it comes to contract. You bring in LaShawn McCoy, you're bringing a way cheaper running back. Now, like I said, he is 31 years old. So you're bringing him in for so cheap because you're not going to keep him around for a while. This is a running back that you bring in that you need for 1 year, that you think can help you for 1 year. This isn't a guy that you can lock up and say, okay, he'll continue to improve and get better and learn our offense. No, he's coming in to help you 1 year. The next year, he's gone. And now he could help because we could lose J.D. McKissick. So if you kind of just want to swap McKissick for McCoy and try that out, you could. And this is a guy that I also think you bring in. You can pair him along with Kerryon. You don't have to trade Kerryon because you bring in LaShawn McCoy. However, it's still a very, very deep class if you bring in LaShawn McCoy, because then you have Bo Scarborough, Ty Johnson, LaShawn McCoy, you have Kerryon Johnson. That's 4 running backs, and that's a lot. I don't know if the Lions will carry that throughout the regular season. Hopefully not. That's a lot. At least I would say about 3. So there's definitely completely different situations. I guess those are the pros and cons for each. I probably wouldn't go either, honestly. But if I had to pick one, wow, that's really hard. For me, LaShawn McCoy kind of comes down. They both kind of come down to what happens with Kerryon. I would say if Kerryon stays on the team, LaShawn McCoy obviously makes way more sense. If Kerryon is gone, Melvin Gordon to me probably makes more sense, but at the same time it doesn't, because I feel like that's a huge contract. It's really how much confidence you have in Melvin Gordon. So that's kind of what it comes down to. How much confidence do you have he can really help this offense? And yeah, I guess you guys can answer that question. I try my best to answer that. It's not an easy one to answer. That's really not. But it's a good question. Next up, we have, would you trade the number 3 pick to the Bears for Mack? Now, this is one that I think we talked about a while ago, but this is a very popular one at one time. And personally, after really breaking this down and thinking about it after I made the video, I was like, yeah, no, I would not do it. I'm gonna keep that answer simple. I would not do this. Now, some people would, some people wouldn't. All right, some people think it's crazy to do. And kind of breaking down how it would work out financially, that's really where it comes to a no. Now, Khalil Mack is a heck of a player. He's not young, but he's not very old either. And we just know what Khalil Mack is. I mean, we see this guy twice a year. We know how good he is and how impactful he is on the game. And at the same time, he would also be taking away from Chicago. So obviously, if Chicago loses a really good player, now they would get our 3 pick in the draft, which they don't have a first-round pick. The Bears do not. They have a second-round pick, so they would love that, I think. And they're trying to dump him anyways because he wants so much money. Here's the problem. The problem is his contract, and that's really what it comes down to when it comes to this trade. So you're trading the 3 pick for Khalil Mack, which doesn't sound too awful if Khalil Mack wasn't getting paid so much money. His cap hit for this season, 2020 alone, is $26.6 million. $26 million. In 2021, you're paying him as well $26 million for that year. $26 million is what he's going to hit you on a cap. Your cap space right now is $52 million. You're bringing a guy that's going to have a $26 million cap hit. That's going to drop you. That's basically half of the cap money that you have. That's half of the money on one guy. Now, I'm not saying Khalil Mack is not a game changer, but do you think at his age he's that much of a game changer where he's going to he's worth that much money? Personally, no. I would spend that money definitely elsewhere. I think you can bring in, I mean, heck, you could get Darius Slay, $17 million a year, and that'd be $9 million less than what you'd be paying Khalil Mack. Like, that's to me is what's very concerning. Now, statistically, he still has it. Last season was probably his worst season. Only 8.5 sacks, 47 total tackles, 14 quarterback hits. 2018, definitely a lot better. 12.5 sacks, 47 total tackles, 18 quarterback hits. 2017, 10.5 sacks, consistently 78 total tackles. 19 was his worst season. I'm not saying that's something that's a sign to come, but I would say for me, no. It's pretty simple for me, no. The pros and cons are, really the pros are you're taking away from Chicago and you're adding an edge rusher where we didn't get a lot of pressure last season. And I think you could fit in our defense. The cons, the contract is outrageous, and I don't think we can justify spending that. If we were a team last year that had a solid O-line, we're going to return that. And, we had a solid team. Maybe we're 9-7, and we're like, you know what? We got to get there. But we just need another edge rush. Let's go get Khalil Mack. Then I could understand why you'd want to do that, because then it's like, okay, can a 3 pick really help us out? But the Lions, I don't think they're right there last season where they have too many holes with the money. Now, they have the money to fill the holes, don't get me wrong. So they need that money. I don't think edge rusher is even our biggest need. I think it's a big need, but not our biggest need. So I would not do this. And plus the 3 pick, it could potentially be a Chase Young, a Simmons, an Okuda, possibly trading back, adding to more picks. So for me, this is a no. But again, I like the idea, and I appreciate you, 1975 FN. Hopefully you're watching this video. And yeah, let's go to the next comment. He said, if we should grab Javon Hargrave. Now, exclusive, I'm going to keep this one very simple. Yes, we should grab Javon Hargrave. If we can get this deal done, I think it's a very good deal to make. I don't think he would be someone that's like Khalil Mack money, obviously. I think he'd be someone like possibly 10 to 12 million a year, which may seem crazy, probably more than that actually, maybe like 13, and I would be willing to pay that. I would be willing to pay. I think if you're going to go big bucks, you got to go either big bucks on the O-line and big bucks on the D-line. That's where you have to spend your big money, and especially if they're losing stacks because you cut him, a guy like Hargrave is going to have such an impact on this defense. We've seen the results when we have a great interior defensive lineman, and I think that's where you spend your money. You spend the big money there. Guys on the outside are very important, don't get me wrong, but trenches out, you got to spend your big money there, and I don't think Hargrave would be a bad move. He gives you a run stopper and a pass rusher, both of things that you need, and definitely you should grab Javon Hargrave. He's not that old either. We can lock him up for multiple years, and he would still continue to be great. The next question says, would you take Jake Fromm if you fell to the third round? Now, this is interesting because you maybe watch my videos, and that's where I got this. Tuck Dylan, shout out to you for that comment. Should we take Jake Fromm in the third round? This one's hard. Why is it hard? Well, because I do like Jake Fromm. I feel like Jake Fromm's going to be a very good NFL quarterback. And I know some people may just go off on me because of that. I know some people will. I feel like Jake Fromm has a solid career, is going to have a solid career in the NFL when he gets the opportunity. I think he will get an opportunity. He's going to make the most of it. Jake Fromm to me is very much a prototypical NFL quarterback. He's just what you think of, right? And not like the new era or whatever people want to call it, like the fast running back. He's a quarterback that's a pocket presence, not the biggest arm. He's got the very good field vision. He's very good when it comes to timing. And those two things, to me, are the biggest in the NFL. You have to be able to see the field, and you have to have that timing down with teammates. Obviously, that comes with time. Obviously, having all the skills like Stafford with the rocket arm is a bonus. Jake Fromm doesn't have that, so that's something that, you're probably not going to get. Obviously, he can work out, maybe he gets a bigger arm, but I don't think he's going to get to the point where he's just got a rocket. Some people do, some people don't. He just may not have that rocket arm ever, but the field vision and timing is something that's super hard to work on. You could say, you got the abilities, you can work on the other stuff, but man, when it comes to the NFL level, at that point, you got to be pretty good, and Jake Fromm in the third round is a very interesting thought. I do like Jake Fromm a lot. I would probably say fourth round, and then we're talking. Third round, I still feel like is a reach because we need other positions. Now, that's not to say I think he will last that far. I think there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback that probably will take him, but I would say fourth round is kind of where I'm sitting, and then we're probably really discussing that. I think keep an eye on Jalen Hurts as well. I think he goes second round. I don't know. I just pointed that out because I thought about it. Here we go. It says, what do you think is the best option in the draft if the Lions can't get Chase Young or get another first-round pick if they trade back? Also, now that we can't get Jones from the Chiefs, who are other tackles and edge rushers we could sign? Okay, very good question. Very good question, Isaac. The first part of this says, what do you think is the best option if we don't get Chase Young or if we trade back, we don't get another first-round pick? So that's kind of what he's saying there. Personally, I think there's a lot of good options. So we'll start this thing off. If we don't get Chase Young, the two top options to me are Isaiah Simmons, Jeffrey Okudah, Derek Brown will top three against this. Those are the three options, maybe no lineman. Now, if you're saying we trade back and we don't get Chase Young, obviously because we traded back, but we don't get a second first-round pick, what would we do? Well, here's the thing. We'd probably acquire a second-round pick, so we'd have the two close second-round picks, and we have a little bit later first-round pick. It really depends on where that first-round pick is. If you're trading back with the Chargers and you fall at number 6, Derek Brown could still be there, possibly Okudah, possibly Simmons, probably more of a Derek Brown. I think that'd be more your option. Now, if you trade back in the 15s, if you trade it back to 13, 14 in the draft, now I think you're looking at players like Javon Kinlaw. You're looking at Caleb. You're looking at edge rushers or interior presence. You could potentially be looking at linemen, depending on what you did in free agency. You could be looking at some guys that may have fallen, like an Andrew Thomas to replace a Rick Wagner, possibly a Tristan Wirfs, depending on how far he falls. But I would say a guy like Javon Kinlaw is definitely a big option if we fall into that kind of range where we're past the top 10. I think Javon Kinlaw is definitely a guy to keep an eye on unless anybody surprisingly falls, because Kinlaw is going to fill out a huge need, and he's not that far behind Derek Brown in my eyes. And I think some people actually think he's better than Derek Brown. So I definitely keep an eye on him. Very good question. And the next one is also, since Jones is gone, who are some tackles and edge we can get? Just a couple of guys at the tackle position. Javon Hargrave, which we already talked about. I think DJ Reader's another one. Very young. He has the potential to be great. Andrew Billups. I said AJ Billups. Andrew Billups, who gives some pressure from the tackle position. I think Jordan Phillips, a little bit cheaper of option. Danny Shelton. When you look at the edge rusher position, I would say keep an eye on Vic Beasley For some reason, I feel like he could be a fit for the Lions. I just have a picture of him being signed. I don't know why. Jamie Collins, because he was with the Patriots. Calvin Noy, I guess. Might as well throw him out there as well. I think there's a lot of guys like that. Aaron Lynch, who's a cheaper option. Obviously, a guy like Shaquille Barrett, if the Lions wanted to break the bank on somebody. So, yeah, there's definitely tons of options out there. Just because Chris Jones is gone doesn't mean we're out of options. But very good questions. Let's see what we got next. We got XP Wood X, who says, as a must-win team, the Lions have to make a big splash in free agency and the draft for obvious reasons. If free agency doesn't go as planned, do you lose more hope? Ha, lose hope. That's a good one. No. Personally, I don't lose hope. I have a problem. I don't lose hope. No, seriously, though, it's going to be hard to get me to lose hope with the Lions. Unless we probably trade Derek. Just we traded, Stafford for, a very bad trade. I mean, I don't know if there's a good trade for Stafford. Unless we traded Stafford, I'm probably going to have super high hopes no matter what happens. I have some weird belief that every year they're going to win, and yeah. Now, obviously, certain moves would make me more happy and more excited for the next season, but yeah, I probably won't lose hope. That's probably not a possibility for me, so I'm sorry, that's just not a possibility. Who do you think should fill the safety spot? I think Will Harris and Tracy Walker are established as two safeties that are going to be here long term. I would say a veteran safety is where you got to keep an eye on. I think the Lions will look that way, possibly a Wilson, McCourty, someone like that. Someone that's a veteran presence to bring in. Obviously, a rookie could make sense, but I think the Lions are interested in a veteran because they may lose Tavon Wilson, or if they bring him back, as you can see from the picture, they may bring him back and then it'll be good. But I would say that's one of those guys that you have to, at the safety position, you have to keep an eye on. Veterans are where I would say the Lions are probably going to be targeting this offseason, not necessarily a draft pick. So that's how I think, and I think Will Harris and Tracy Walker are going to be here for a while. If we don't trade back or draft Simmons or Okudah, oh wait, read that wrong. If we don't trade back, do you draft Simmons or Okudah? Why? Okay, now this one, for me personally, just straight up, if they said Simmons or Okudah, pick one, I'm taking Simmons. Now, I think Simmons can do many things, and I think he's be very helpful to this defense. Some people think that, Matt Patricia may not use him right, and I honestly can't blame you for that. Defensive Guru hasn't had the best rankings, and we haven't had the best, results, so I'm not mad at you for saying that. However, I don't think, I can't not take a player because of that. I should be able to have trust that my defensive core or my head coach, okay, can find a way. A defensive-minded head coach can find a way to make a talent like Isaiah Simmons work. If you can't do that, he's fired. There's no reason he's here. If you can't make that work, he can't be here, right? You can't have a head coach that can't make a talent like Isaiah Simmons work. That's just a problem, especially a defensive-minded one, okay? This is no offensive-minded coach. This is a defensive-minded coach. You got to be able to make Simmons work. So I'm taking Simmons. Now, when would I take Okudah? I'm taking Okudah in certain situations. One, if Darius Slay is traded. Now, not just if Darius Slay is traded, also if the trade lines don't get a big name in free agency. I think if the Lions trade Darius Slay and they go get a Byron Jones, then I could see them possibly not taking Okudah. But again, I wouldn't be mad because I do think you need another guy across. If the Detroit Lions do keep Darius Slay, they could take Okudah. However, that's probably not where I would go. It's not because I don't like Okudah. I don't think he's great. I think Okudah's more of that guy. I think if we traded back and Simmons just got picked before us and Okudah's still there, that's when I'm kind of looking at him. However, I feel like I'd go mid-round for another cornerback if we keep Darius Slay for another year just to kind of mix in with Amani because I think Amani has a bright future. I would not be mad to take Okudah, but I think he's more of a trade-back option if Simmons isn't there. But usually, almost 100% of the time, I'm probably going to take Simmons over Okudah. No hate to Okudah. I think he's great, but Simmons is just another... Simmons is just... It's Simmons. Come on, man. Come on. Next up, it says, can you do a mock draft with two trade backs? Lions trade back with the Dolphins, and they get Tua. Hold up. Okay, Lions trade back with the Dolphins, they get Tua. Then the Raiders want to get ahead of the Chargers, Panthers, and they trade up to 5 since Giants never trade back historically. Love your work, man. Go Lions. That's something that I'm definitely probably going to do at some point. Haven't done it yet, so yes, good job for calling that out. I'm sorry. You just had to call me out like that? No, I see you. Okay. No, I will do that at some point. Next up, it says, okay, hold up. Sign Melvin Gordon or draft Taylor. Simmons over Okudah, keep Slay. Okay, I'm not sure if the last part's a question there, but he says, would I sign Melvin Gordon or draft Taylor? I would draft Taylor. Taylor is definitely one of my favorite running backs. You guys know that. I think he actually fell in the second round. That even make it better. Now, I would not be completely against signing Melvin Gordon. I do think he has a lot of potential, and I think under a better offensive line and under Darrell Bevel, he could actually perform very well. We never had a really good running back before. Not to say I think Melvin Gordon is, but we don't really know. I feel like he has the potential to be really good, and I would definitely not be mad bringing him in, but I think Jonathan Taylor is he's just another animal. However, if it comes down to taking him at 3, do not take Jonathan Taylor at 3. I like Jonathan Taylor, but I don't like him that much, okay? That's kind of crazy. We have other needs. So, yeah, I really like Jonathan Taylor, but both of these really come down to trading carry on at the end of the day. So that's kind of just something I thought I'd throw out there. Next up, it says you should do a mock draft with a membership on Mock Draft Simulator. Okay, so the membership would allow me to do trades. That's something that I want to do at some point for sure. I do have to pay for that. I have to get that. I got to get that soon. It says, or you could do a predictable on March Madness. Now, March Madness, I will be making a March Madness bracket. When that is, when all the teams get in, I'll make my final bracket, and then I'll predict who's going to win the championship. Okay, I'll do that. I'll probably put that up here too. So, Connor, keep an eye out for that. Okay, I don't think I've seen this one yet. It says trade Marvin Jones. Trade Marvin Jones to the Raiders for their 2nd round pick in 2020 and their 4th round pick. Would I do that? I didn't even write anything on this one because I didn't know it was fair. Probably not. Wow, this is a hard one. I don't think I would. But again, the 2nd and 4th round picks are 2 places where you can get a really good wide receiver. A 2nd round pick is going to give you a really good wide receiver this year. I don't think I would do it just because I do think Marvin Jones is an animal. And yes, he's getting older. But man, I just think Marvin Jones is an animal. However, you are adding two picks in the draft. 4th round pick hasn't been relatively great for us in the past under Bob Quinn. I would probably stick with Marvin Jones because knowing that. Now, if he was smacking on every 4th round pick, it'd be a different situation, but he's not. So I'd probably stick with Marvin Jones, but that's definitely a hard one. So I think those are all the questions. So yeah, that's it. I appreciate all of you guys for asking questions. If I didn't answer your question because you commented late, I apologize. Hopefully I answer it on Instagram, or I'll answer your questions in the comments of this video. But I appreciate all of the questions. And yeah, I think that's it for the video. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.